Okay, so let's talk about assigning oxidation numbers. So if we look at our first problem here, A, I know what oxygen's going to be. I can figure out Sr, strontium, from its position on the periodic table. Chromium's going to be one that's a little more difficult. So let's look at the periodic table and figure out strontium. So here's strontium, it's in group 2, so it's going to be a +2. So we only have one unknown, we can write a little equation. So I have 1 strontium, which is +2, and I have 2 chromiums I don't know the charge of, and I have 7 oxygens, which are -2, and any compound has to add up to 0. So I have 2 plus 2x minus 14 equals 0. So 2x minus 12 equals 0. So 2x equals 12. So x equals +6. So the charge on strontium would be +2. The charge on chromium would be +6. And the charge on oxygen is -2. Let's do another one, a couple more. So I know oxygen, an element by itself has to be equal to 0. So everything on there is 0. Let's look at copper chloride. So copper can have one of 2 charges, so I'm not sure what it's going to be. But I do know that I'm going to let it equal x, and I have one of it. And I have 2 chlorides, which should be -1, is going to equal 0. So x minus 2 equals 0, so x equals +2. So copper's oxidation number is +2, and chlorine's oxidation is -1. That K looks really complicated, doesn't it? Let's try it. I bet we can figure it out. So I don't have to break everything apart unless I want to. So I'm going to leave these polyatomics together because I know their charges. So because I know NH4 is a +1 and sulfate is a 2-. Now this becomes a very simple problem. 2 times a +1 plus x plus SO4 is a -2. I have 3 of those, has to equal 0. So 2 plus x minus 6 equals 0. So x minus 4 equals 0. So x equals +4. So this one is +1. This one is -2. CE is +4. But it asks for every atom. So now we have to go back and do these. But I didn't want to do them all in one big calculation because that's just too much. So let's do ammonia, NH4 plus. So nitrogen, I'm not sure what that charge is going to be. But I know hydrogen should be +1. So x plus 4 times a +1 equals +1. This has a charge, so I have to have a charge over on this side. So x plus 4 equals +1, so x equals -3. So nitrogen is -3 and hydrogen is +1. Let's go on and do sulfate. So SO4 is 2-. Oxygen is almost always -2. It has 2 exceptions. One is when it's an element, and the other is if it's with fluorine. Neither of those is the case. So I'm going to use -2 for sulfur, or for oxygen. Sulfur is going to be x. 4 times a -2 equals -2. Because again, whatever the charge is has to be here. If it's a compound, it's 0. If it's an ion, it has a charge. So x minus 8 equals -2. So x equals +6. So now sulfur is +6. Oxygen is 2-, and we've got CE. So we've got all of our elements worked out. I hope this is helpful. Let me know if you need any other help. Thanks.